All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Onside Kick Show, your favorite show for football trivia, pick'ems, player flashbacks, and everything in between. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, one of the best in the biz, Detroit expert, Mr. Gavin Lemke.
Man, I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate the compliments. Go Lions. That's really all I can say right now.
Go Lions. We're going to be talking a lot about the Lions today. There's a big game coming up. I'm a Bears fan. We got the Bears taking on Gavin's Lions on Sunday, so we're going to talk about that. We got a very Lions-heavy episode today, actually. We're going to talk about some cool Lions players. We're going to talk about the matchup, perhaps some playoff aspirations, what an ideal NFC matchup for the Lions would be, and some other things, too. But before we get into all that, of course, we are going to start off our episode with some trivia. We're going to go in blind. I'm going to have Gavin do this one with me. So today is November 17th. Once again, this trivia is powered by fantasyindex.com. Their slogan is Cheaters Always Prosper. It's kind of wild. The question for today is, what do the following quarterbacks have in common? Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Zach Wilson, Gardner Minshew, and Jalen Hurts.
Off the bat, you said Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. Had me thinking something about Cliff Kingsbury. C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson. Obviously, that doesn't work. These were all pretty high draft picks aside from Gardner Minshew. Am I right about that?
Yep. All of these guys were first-rounders except for Hurts, who was second, and Minshew, who was, I think he was fifth or sixth. I was thinking maybe it's something to do with their names, like Patrick Mahomes the second. You got Gardner Minshew second. I don't know if any of the other guys have.
That's true. I think Anthony Richardson might be a second or third.
Is he? Okay. So all right, that's a tentative guess. Something about their names, like they're another generation. They're a second, they're a third. I'm trying to think of
what do we know about their rookie seasons? Were they all starting off the bat? I know Mahomes sat for a year.
Baker initially sat, I believe, in favor of Tyrod. I think they traded him week one so we could start. I'm not totally sure. I know C.J. Stroud started right off the bat, though. So did Richardson. Mahomes sat for a year, too.
Anthony Richardson went down with an injury a couple weeks ago. Mahomes only really played one regular season game. Baker Mayfield, I believe, played a lot in his rookie year. Stroud has looked amazing in his rookie year. These rookie seasons statistically don't seem to add up together.
Yeah. So maybe it's not something with that. It could be first year as a starter overall. I'm not sure.
Who were these players' backup quarterbacks?
Baker, it was. I think it was still Tyrod. C.J. Stroud is Davis Mills. Anthony Richardson is Minshew currently. Zach Wilson kind of is the backup. Jalen Hurts was Wentz. Oh, you know what? I think all of these players were. Minshew's throwing me off. I was going to say all of these players took over as the starter for a quarterback when they were taken out of the game. Mahomes was sitting behind Alex Smith for a year. They traded him. Baker Mayfield, they had Tyrod. They traded away him to start Mayfield. C.J. Stroud, they had Davis Mills. They traded him away.
Yep.
Richardson, same thing. Last year they had
Matt Ryan?
Was it Matt Ryan? Yeah, it was Matt Ryan. It was Nick Foles at one point, I think. Am I forgetting somebody? For the Colts last year?
Wentz?
Maybe. I'm trying to think of who was. Oh, Sam Ehlinger was playing a decent amount.
Oh my goodness.
That was a carousel. I'm thinking back to that last game with the Colts and the Texans where they threw that Hail Mary. Shout out Lovie Smith for getting the Bears the first overall pick on that play. Zach Wilson was drafted to replace Darnold. Minshew took over for Foles when Foles went down, and Jalen Hurts took over for Wentz.
I'm stumped. I'm starting to think about when were these guys born. I'm thinking maybe their birth month or their zodiac sign. I think they're really trying to stump us here.
They're all Leos. That's the. If I had to guess, I would say it has something to do with them replacing their incumbent quarterbacks. Is incumbent the right word? Something like that.
That would be my best guess at this point as well.
Well, let's send it. Let's see what the answer is. So what do the following quarterbacks have in common? Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Zach Wilson, Gardner Minshew, Jalen Hurts. They're all players wearing headbands.
Okay, yeah, that's something you don't really think of, is
Right.
it?
No, you do not. That's wow. Okay.
Does Baker wear a headband? I think Baker needs to lose the headband.
I agree. I think he should. But back in his Oklahoma days, he was rocking the headband. Now that I think about it, and he was pretty cold.
And I think with Hurts, I think it's more of a skull cap of sorts rather than a headband.
Right.
Go ahead and I'm gonna say this is a fraudulent trivia question.
Yeah, this trivia question today is not valid whatsoever. I mean, I had the first time I did this show, it was who are the only two teams, or who's the only team that hasn't had a kick return touchdown in the last however many years or something like that. So this is just kind of through left field for me.
Tough nuts to crack from fantasyindex.com.
Where cheaters always prosper. Okay, well, I say personally we won on that because all of these guys did end up replacing the guy before. But by rule, I guess we lost. But with the trivia out of the way, before we got into the studio here, we got some pretty big news. So let's talk about some of the headlines from this week. We can start with the biggest thing that's happened so far. So as of about 20 minutes ago, Joe Burrow is out for the season.
Wow.
Tore a ligament in his hand, and the Bengals are sitting at the bottom of the division right now, still with a okay record. But
yeah,
what do you think of that, man? What do you think of that?
I mean, I hate to do it, but I think it's over for the Bengals. If you don't have Burrow, I think the Bengals are middle of the pack. You saw it in the beginning of the season. Burrow was dealing with, a calf injury, and he just wasn't the same. They got him back healthy, looked pretty good the last couple weeks, and it's just unfortunate for any team. You hate to see them lose their franchise quarterback for the season like that. That's the second season-ending injury we've seen from Burrow. We know he's got that dog in him. Maybe he'll try to pull a Rodgers, say he's back for the playoffs if the Bengals can get there, but it's just unfortunate. Sports is probably the worst thing injuries is probably the worst thing about sports.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and you're right. That is the second time we've seen him not be able to complete his season. Had that ACL tear his rookie year, and torn ligament in the right wrist. He wasn't able to grip the ball during that game on Thursday night. Head to the locker room. Jake Browning looked pretty solid on the few drives that I saw. I didn't watch the rest of that game, but they're going to need to dig themselves out of the hole that they're in right now without Joe Burrow. They're going to need to, T. Higgins is banged up. Jamar Chase still playing through injuries a little bit. So, hey, they got Charlie Jones back off IR. Iowa legend, now, technically drafted out of Purdue. They got him back.
That's our guy, man. We'll be rooting for him, and that's really what you got to see is the wide receiver core has to step up, the offensive line has to step up, defensively they got to step up if they want to have any chance at making the playoffs. And that's a stacked division over there. You got Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, you got Cleveland, all really good teams, and I just don't see Cincinnati finishing even top two in that division. Right.
It's going to be really tough. The Browns, they lost Watson for the year as well. They still squeaked out a win against the Ravens last week. The Ravens kind of blew that one, so in typical NFL fashion, then they go out and blow out the Bengals. I know Joe Burrow went down, but the Steelers, their defense is really carrying them, but if that offense picks up a little bit, now they have a little less pressure to kind of be like the dominant force in that division. They just need to win the games that they can. Division ones are going to be really important for them.
Yep.
Ravens, same thing with them. They've had a few division losses, but overall, they just got to keep putting together the wins that they can get. Ravens are 3-2 in the division. Bengals are 0-3 in the division. So yeah, with all of these teams with winning records except for the Bengals at 5-5, it's gonna be tough for them to get back there.
Yeah. I find it really interesting with the Ravens. You said they're 3-2 in the division. It seems like nobody outside their division can figure out how to beat them. I think I saw a stat when the Lions lost to the Ravens by 35. Lamar Jackson is, I think, 18-1 against NFC teams. It's ridiculous. If you don't play the Ravens twice a year, they're really hard to figure out.
Yeah. They took that a nail-biting loss to the Colts at Week 3. That was kind of, the season's it's early. They're still figuring that out. The Colts actually had some momentum going. But, yeah, besides that, I mean, their only losses, they beat the Bengals, they beat the Browns. Steelers took that one with the defensive walk-off, I believe, from T.J. Watt. And then Ravens were able to win the next 4 games until losing to the Browns, now bouncing back against the Bengals. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Lions, we're going to talk about them earlier. They look like a contending team, and, I mean, they got the crap beaten out of them by the Ravens just...
Yeah, and as a Lions fan, what makes you feel better about that is 2 weeks later they did the same thing, but only a little bit worse to the Seattle Seahawks.
That's true. That is very true. So it's going to be interesting to see how that AFC North finishes out.
Yep.
We talked about Watson going down as well. What about Logan Wilson?
Logan Wilson, man, I mean, I think he needs to go. I think he needs to be in jail. This guy, I think last night, I didn't watch the game. I only saw clips, but I think Logan Wilson injured 3 players, and it was Lamar, it was
Mark Andrews,
Odell Beckham Jr., and Mark Andrews. Those are your top 3 skill position players.
Yeah,
I think this guy's out for blood. You can kind of see it in the way he tackles. And Bears linebacker Jack Sanborn has a little bit of this in him as well. Is they'll wrap your legs, they'll maybe get you around the waist, and then they'll use that as momentum, and they'll swing their legs through and kind of trip you up. You get a lot of twisted ankles, you get a lot of sprained knees in there.
It's the hip drop tackle.
Yeah, somebody needs to look into that.
Ian Rappaport is reporting that the NFL may in fact ban the hip drop tackle, but as of now, he says they are completely legal. Yeah, Logan Wilson was catching some bodies out there. It was a pretty bad game for injuries in general. I mean, obviously Burrow got hurt. Bengals corner Cam Taylor-Britt went down as well with a quad injury. They had a D lineman go down at some point too. I mean, so clearly it was bad injury luck for everybody. But yeah, that hip drop tackle, that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Logan Wilson, who knows how much he's going to get fined this week.
Oh, yeah. They're not afraid to fine players.
Right. No, they're not. They've been fining running backs, really.
They're finding running backs, yeah. We can touch on that in a second. I just want to say one more thing about the injuries in the AFC North. That is such a stacked division, and kind of a cliche that you hear people say about a really stacked division like that is that throughout the season they're going to beat each other up. They're going to beat each other up, and then one team is going to come out victorious, and that has not been more true than with the AFC North. Burrow going down, Watson going down.
Yeah.
I think Lamar twisted his ankle last night. You had 3 more injuries on Baltimore last night. I think the team that has a chance out of the AFC North to make the deepest playoff run is probably just the healthiest team.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Even the Steelers. Steelers are pretty banged up right now. They had Cam Hayward missing for half the season. I think they're getting Minkah Fitzpatrick back soon, but he's been out for a while. Deontay Johnson was hurt, came back, now he's hurt again. So, yeah, that's a very good point. They're literally going to beat each other up until the healthiest team comes out on top. So, Mark Andrews also gone for the season for the Ravens, likely. I think he's getting an MRI to confirm.
That's a big blow.
Yeah,
it's a big blow for a Super Bowl contender.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, right now they're sitting at 8-3. The rest of the teams are going to play this week, but unless the Eagles would be the only team with a better record after this week if they are able to take care of the Chiefs. And we're going to talk about that matchup in a second here. But a couple other AFC teams. The Chiefs are sitting at 7 wins. Dolphins, Steelers, Browns, and Jaguars all sitting at 6 wins. So for the Ravens, I mean, you got to finish strong. The season's not over yet. But you're absolutely right. They look like a Super Bowl contender. And that was a good win against a division rival last night. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those matchups this week. So we just touched on Eagles-Chiefs. I would say, personally, this is the biggest matchup of the week. You've got both teams coming off a bye. Eagles looking like the best team, or one of the best teams in the NFC at 8-1. Had that close loss to the Jets, otherwise would have been undefeated. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, they dropped one to the Broncos. That was kind of tough, and they lost to the Lions week 1, of course. But aside from that, they've been able to take care of business. They held off the Chargers' electric offense. Week 2, they were able to defeat the Jags. That Jets game was controversial, but the Jets have been a team that has played tough against some of the big juggernauts, so they took care of business there. And then they went into Frankfurt and got rid of the Dolphins. So with this matchup in the Eagles, they are at Arrowhead for this game. It's a Monday night game. Eagles-Chiefs, who are you taking?
I got to go Eagles on this one. I think this is probably the best defense Kansas City will see all year. They squeaked out a win against the Jets. Jets played them really well. I think the defense for the Eagles is going to be the difference in this one. I'm kind of predicting a shootout here. I mean, obviously, you can't stop Mahomes. You can limit some of the stuff he can do, but you're not going to stop him. And I think with the best defense in the league, I'm excited to see what the best quarterback can do against the best defense in the league.
Yeah, I like that take a lot. I think that really every logical part of my brain is telling me to pick the Eagles here. But for some reason, I just got that feeling. I got that feeling. The NFL doesn't make sense sometimes. The Chiefs can lose to the Broncos and come back and beat the best team in the NFL the next week. So I haven't fully decided who I'm taking yet, but this is absolutely going to be a shootout, I hope. I mean, we need some more of those shootout-esque games. Lions-Chargers is one of my favorite to watch this year. I love the electric offense. And both these defenses are pretty good, too. I mean, they have their moments. But, yeah, overall, I mean, this could be a high-scoring game, both on offense and defensive turnovers. I think the key is going to be limiting turnovers on both sides. Mahomes has turned the ball over a little bit more than usual this season. Same thing with Jalen Hurts, a lot of fumbles on the turf. So I think I'm going to take the Chiefs here just so we have some competition in the booth. But I can see this one going either way. And frankly, I might be rooting for the Eagles in this one just to see some difference in the playoff scheme. You know, if the Chiefs are vulnerable, it can open up the window for some other
Yeah,
AFC
I would
teams.
certainly like a Philadelphia loss as a Lions fan. This is a big game. It's our Monday night game of the week. Going to be a lot of media attention on this. I don't know if you guys heard, Travis Kelce's girlfriend is kind of a big deal. Actually, Jason Kelce,
Ooh.
center for the Philadelphia Eagles, his brother's girlfriend is actually a very big deal.
I heard that as well, actually. My mom was asking me about that. We may have a question about that on the show later today. But, yeah, I'll need to do my research. I'm not too educated on that topic, so it would be helpful if they, made that relationship known at every NFL game or, on TV all the time. That would really put some perspective into what's going on. So
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Taylor Swift. I don't know. I haven't really seen all the media coverage. Has she been at a Chiefs game this year? I'll be interested to see if she'll be at this game Monday night.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to see, man. But so we're split. We're split in the booth there. We got some Eagles, Chiefs. Yeah, we didn't even talk about this. This is a Kelce matchup as well. This is the Kelce Bowl
Super
rematch.
Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And perhaps a Super Bowl preview again if both of these teams keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Let's go on a side tangent here. What would your ideal Super Bowl matchup be?
Well, my ideal Super Bowl matchup would be the Detroit Lions taking on an AFC team that they play well. You saw Week 1 knocked off the Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champions. Pretty good defensive performance from the Lions there. Haven't been able to keep that up, especially with the pass rush last week against the Chargers. Lions had 0 sacks. Secondary play has kind of been a little bit iffy this year. But from what we can tell, I think the Chiefs have the highest chance out of the AFC to make it to the Super Bowl, and I think that's the team that the Lions would play the best. Obviously, I don't want to run into Baltimore in the Super Bowl, considering what they did to the Lions a couple weeks ago. I don't think the Bills have a shot at it anymore. I don't think the Jets have a shot at it anymore. But I think one dream scenario for me would be Rodgers returns to the Jets in December, January, leads them to the Super Bowl, runs into the Detroit Lions, and the Lions take care of business, knocking out Rodgers and the Jets in the Super Bowl, crushing their dreams.
Ooh.
That would be a dream scenario for me.
What a narrative that would be. I mean, hey, careful what you wish for, because I can tell you as a Bears fan, I mean, Rodgers does not like to play nice against his division rivals, but man, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, he uses his voodoo magic his alternative science to heal himself. He gets back in the playoff race with the Jets. They've got this stacked team, and then the Lions come in and pummel him. I mean, that would be hilarious to see, yeah. I mean, I think this is the first time in a while where we can actually confidently talk about the Lions as a Super Bowl contender, which got to feel amazing for you, right?
It feels amazing. It's the first time in my lifetime that I've seen it. In my lifetime, I think I've seen 3 wild card games, 3 wild card losses. Just the hype around this team and the energy has never been better, and it's tangible as well with the roster, top to bottom, filled out pretty nice.
Yep.
Love the coaching, and we've proven it. 7-2 so far. Only 1-0 in the division. Looking to play our second divisional matchup this weekend. But yeah, as a Lions fan, I'll speak for all Lions fans. We've never felt better.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. I mean, Dan Campbell is bringing an energy to that city that we have never seen before, and he's totally turned that team around. So, as you mentioned, only played 1 division game so far. Playing the Bears this week. This is going to be a Sunday in the afternoon. Bears coming off of a Thursday night scrappy win against the Panthers. But they're getting Justin Fields back. They're getting Khalil Herbert back. Meanwhile, the Lions have Montgomery back now. So this is a Montgomery revenge game. He and Gibbs coming off of some fantastic last few games. So what do you think about this matchup? Lions at home here versus the Bears.
My main concern, I think, is that the Lions need to be able to stop the run. You said Fields and Khalil Herbert are back. Justin Fields in his last 2 matchups against the Lions, he's had 100-plus rushing yards in both games. So I think stopping the run will be our main concern. Obviously, the Bears, not a great offense, but they tend to hit a couple deep balls, maybe a big play once or twice in a game. I think if the Lions can limit those, maybe force a couple turnovers, I think we should win this one handedly.
Yeah, I think on paper this is an easy win for the Lions. The question for both of these teams is going to be the defense, because the Bears' defense, I know they probably looked way better than they should have against the Panthers, but the last couple weeks, the Bears' defense has been playing really well, way better than they were at the beginning of the season. A lot of that in part due to Montez Sweat being there and actually creating some disruption on the D-line in the pass game and the run game. But, yeah, I think you're getting so many guys back from the Bears, so we'll see if they're at full strength. It looks like Fields is ready to go, or it sounds like he's ready to go. Meanwhile, the Lions' defense, I mean, their offense is electric. That's not a question. The defense has a lot of playmakers, but it's still a pretty young team. You know, Jack Campbell, Iowa God, he's still developing. Malcolm Rodriguez, another young guy I like there. A lot of young pass rushers. Aiden Hutchinson is starting to establish himself more. You got guys like James Houston, Kirby Joseph, ton of young guys there. So if they can continue to play well, and this could be, I don't want to say it to jinx myself, but this could be a trap game. You're playing a division rival. The Bears have historically played the Lions really tough, so I do agree with you. I think, as much as I would like you to lose this game, I think the Lions will come out on top here, but I think it'll be closer than people think. It's really just going to depend on how the returning Bears players play against this defense for the Lions.
Yep. Home game for the Lions. The energy should be immaculate. It's Montgomery, homecoming game, of sorts. I think the 12th man at Ford Field should make an impact, especially defensively for the Lions on third downs. No one gets louder than Ford Field.
Yep, that's another thing. Fields has definitely, of the issues that he struggled with this year, I think his accuracy gets hated on a little too much. I think for the most part he's been pretty accurate, but it's his command at the line that has really struggled. So yeah, if you make it loud for him and he can't make changes at the line or recognize the play and get into a panic mode where he's going to run right into a defender when he tries to escape the pocket, then yeah, that could cause a ton of problems. So that is going to be a huge factor. Ford Field getting loud. Let's go to our third big matchup of the week. We've got a couple big ones here. We could talk about Seahawks, Rams. Rams getting Stafford back. That's usually a good divisional game. Even though the Rams are 3-6, I could see that going one of two ways. I think Niners, Buccaneers could be a good game. Jets, Bills rematch. The Jets beat them in week 1. But I think the big one I want to talk about this week is the Vikings playing the Broncos in Denver on Sunday night. You got Josh Dobbs with some real momentum there in Minnesota. Meanwhile, talk about momentum, Russell Wilson coming off of a win against the Bills and then the Chiefs. Say what you will about the Bills, they're 5-5. They've been struggling this year, but that's still a what is generally considered a juggernaut team over the last couple of years. So we got Vikings coming into Denver. What are you thinking about this matchup?
I mean, what a bounce back Denver has made. I wrote them off probably about week 3, and they bounced back better than any other team. But if you would have told me 3 or 4 years ago that one of the biggest matchups of this week would have been Josh Dobbs versus Russell Wilson, I would have laughed in your face, but here we are sitting here wondering genuinely who's the better quarterback. Super interesting. I think the Vikings, obviously an NFC North team, they're looking to make a playoff push. It's another team I kind of wrote off earlier in the season, especially after the Cousins injury. But look at Josh Dobbs. It's been one of the most fascinating stories in the league this year. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the Broncos defense might give Dobbs some problems. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, another defense that has turned things around since getting their butts whipped by the Dolphins in that historic 70-20 game. They've played really well down the stretch. Meanwhile, yeah, the Vikings, Justin Jefferson is questionable for this game. Still up in the air whether or not he's going to return, but that would be a huge get for them. But clearly they've shown to be effective even without him. Jordan Addison's been a great rookie. And the Broncos, yeah, Russell Wilson's played well, so will he continue to play well against the Brian Flores defense that likes to blitz a lot? I remember when the Bears played them earlier in the season, they were blitzing 52% of the time, the Vikings were. So, yeah, that's going to be a test for Russell and the Broncos O-line as well. They've had a fair bit of penalties there, false starts, holdings, whatnot. So I think that's going to be the key for them is the O-line. But I think this is so interesting. If the Vikings win this game, all of a sudden they're 7-4, which would be crazy to think about. Even if the Lions win this week, that's one win behind the Lions too.
Yeah. What are the Vikings? Maybe a game and a half behind Detroit right now?
Yeah, they're both 2-0 in the division. So that's so tough. And then the Broncos, they're sitting at 4-5. A win here would put them ahead of the Chargers, I believe, for the division. So they all of a sudden they would be tied for second. So man, yeah. I really don't know. There's a lot of stakes riding on this. You know who you're taking?
Think on this one. I don't want to, but I think I'm going to go Minnesota. I kind of want to just take a couple steps back right there and highlight something you just mentioned. You said that the Lions have a 2-0 division record. Right now, as we sit here, the Lions are 1-0 in their division. So I think Zach just wrote off the Bears matchup against the Lions this Sunday as a Lions win. Even though he's a Bears fan, I'll take it. I don't mind that. 2-0 in the division sounds nice. 8-2 overall record sounds nice. If you're going to wave the white flag right now, go ahead, by all means.
I'm not quite waving the right flag just because I've learned to not be really even hopeful as a Bears fan, frankly. I think there's a real chance that Fields goes in there, gets 100 yards, reestablishes himself as the franchise guy, but his coaching is going to do the best they can to hold him back. So I think we've had a pretty neutral discussion about NFC North teams for all this stuff we've talked about today. I think we can all agree Packers suck. They're going to take a fat L to the Chargers on Sunday. But yeah, for the Bears-Lions game, that one I think could go that way. And for this Vikings-Broncos game, I think I'm going to agree with you as well. I think Josh Dobbs' mania is just too high right now.
Yeah, why not root for it?
Right.
Know? Yeah. We've rooted for Russell Wilson. He has a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see Josh Dobbs get a win. Maybe bring this Vikings team to the playoffs. Maybe play Detroit in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Probably lose that game.
Yeah, like I said, careful what you wish for. You don't want the pastronaut dropping 5 touchdowns on you in the playoffs. But yeah, that will be interesting. Something nice about recording this podcast on the side is you don't have to do the ads for KRUI, so we have a few more minutes to talk about our stuff here. So I think for the rest of these matchups, I'll just go ahead and let these sit here. But I do want to talk about a little a player spotlight here.
Interesting.
Detroit legend. Maybe not legend. For you probably know who this guy is. But this is one of the more.
Can I get a guess?
You can get a guess. Yes.
I'm gonna go Cliff Averill.
Cliff Averill. Interesting. See, I think of him more as a Seahawk because he was on that Legion of Boom team. But yeah, he was with the Lions.
That's fair.
That's a phenomenal guess. What do you know about Cliff Averill, man?
I just know he was good, man. I just know he was a part of a team, a Detroit Lions team that their D-line kind of carried them.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was him, obviously Ndamukong Suh. We drafted Nick Fairley, and then I think on the other edge rusher spot was Kyle Vanden Bosch.
Yeah,
the man with the red eyes.
Yeah.
Super intimidating. That was a good Lions defense back in maybe 2014 to 2016. Cliff Averill did some good things for Detroit.
Yeah, Cliff Averill there from 2008 to 2012 before he went to Seattle. But when he was on Detroit, He had seasons of 8.5 sacks, 11 sacks, 9.5 sacks. So, yeah, he was a beast. He actually had, wow, look at this, 2011 Detroit. No Pro Bowl, nothing, but he had 6 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries,
Wow.
11 sacks, and 7 TFLs.
He's a big play guy.
And a pick. I mean, that's borderline defensive player of the year, right? I mean, maybe not.
That's an all-pro season,
Yeah.
but again, Detroit players get gypped, they get overlooked.
I agree. Hey, but he got his ring with Seattle, so
Yeah.
got to shout him out.
There's your accidental spotlight on Cliff Averill.
Right. We'll go to the other side of the ball for the Lions. I want to talk about Brandon Pettigrew.
Wow.
You remember this man?
How could I forget?
This is such a funny player to me because he was so good. I think people don't remember. He was drafted in the first round of the 2009 NFL Draft. He was drafted in the first round. 20th overall, 6'5", 257, coming out of Oklahoma State. Brandon Denard Pettigrew was a stud tight end for the Lions until injuries unfortunately kind of derailed his career. First year, only played 11 games, put up a respectable 30, 3, 4, 6, and 2 stat line. Was getting started. Next year, though, played the full season, 71 catches, 722 yards, 4 touchdowns. Followed it up the next year, 83 catches, 777 yards, 5 touchdowns. And from then on, it was unfortunate he just wasn't really able to stay healthy. But and he also came into the league when he was 24, so he's a little older.
Yeah. No, those are good numbers for a guy that I kind of remember as a red zone threat.
Mm-hmm.
83 catches, almost 800 yards. That's respectable. Only 5 touchdowns. I kind of pictured him as like a red zone threat, but, those are obviously the Calvin Johnson days. You could throw it up to somebody else. I just remember Pettigrew being in the end zone a lot. I also remember him fumbling a lot and me getting upset about that. I'm looking right now. Pro Football Reference, Brandon Pettigrew had 4 fumbles in the 2012 season.
Man.
That definitely allowed for some curse words to slip out of my mouth. But no, I mean, genuinely pretty good memories of Brandon Pettigrew. I know he played alongside as a tight end alongside Tony Scheffler, another great name. A lot of tight ends coming in and out of this league that kind of get overlooked.
Yeah, I agree. And, is Brandon Pettigrew going to be going down in Lions franchise history as a legendary tight end? No, probably not. But that's why I like to spend some of these flashbacks just shouting out, random kind of the equivalent of an NBA role player of the 2010s. Because guys like these, we did Jermaine Kearse last week. Brandon Pettigrew was a pretty cool guy. We'll also note, so after he tore his ACL, I believe he got into some legal trouble. I'm trying to find here on his page.
Pettigrew? No.
Arrested for disorderly conduct and public drunkenness on February 5th, 2017. You know what? Actually, hey, that was after his NFL career was over. So, you know what? Was pretty clean on the field. Afterwards, may have slipped up a bit. But, poor guy. Never really was the same after tearing his ACL. But shout out Brandon. He was dope on the Lions, except for when he was fumbling.
Taking a look right now at the 2014 wild card game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions in Dallas, a pass interference call that was originally called and then picked up by the referees. One of those plays where they're tossing it up to a guy and the linebacker turns their head away from the ball, turns their back away from the ball, and just makes a play on the wide receiver rather than making a play on the ball. The refs properly called this a penalty, and then after reviewing it for some time, picked the flag up. Lions went on to lose that wild card game in 2014. And that's just kind of a glimpse into how much the referees have screwed over the Detroit Lions, but I don't want to get started on that.
No, yeah, just a glimpse. You could pick out, I think, a billion moments where the Lions were very much screwed over by the refs. I mean, I could think of countless times in my life. Again, as a Bears fan, hate the Packers, was never really fond of the Vikings. Lions always felt bad for. Just frankly, I mean, they were just always getting screwed over with terrible calls. Matt Stafford is underappreciated. So I'm glad that you guys are getting your respect. Like I said, really no bad blood. Yeah, we're division rivals, but for the Lions, always have some respect for them. They've had some cool players, such as Mr. Brandon P. over here.
And it's about damn time we get our respect. again, that was Brandon Pettigrew going up for the catch, pass interference called, and then picked up. Classic Dallas Cowboys home game with the referees. I don't know. You hate to see it. It ruins football for you.
Yeah, it does a little bit. But, you know, you move on. Now we're here. Could be looking at a big game against the Bears and a road to the playoffs. So bigger and better things for Detroit coming up. Let's go ahead and answer some questions from the fans. We'll start with another Lions-related question. Who is the best running back duo in the league? What do you think?
You said this is Lions-related, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a bit biased, but I'm going to go with Gibbs and Montgomery. Your classic inside-outside duo. You know, you got your hard-nosed, right-up-the-gut runner, north and south, in David Montgomery. You got they'll pitch it to him, little screen pass, run it outside with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think you couldn't really ask for a better tandem than those two, especially running behind Pro Football Focus's #1 offensive line in the league. I think that kind of has something to do with it.
Yeah, and the reason I say it's Lions related is because I agree with you. I think that is the best running back duo in the league here. Some other guys I was thinking about, you can make a case for Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, I believe. When he's on the field, Achane's coming back this week from injured reserve. Definitely make a case for them. You can talk about, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren have been all right. They've been starting to pick up some traction. I would say not quite on par with the Lions' production, though. And then you got go over to the Falcons. I mean, if Arthur Smith was using Bijan Robinson right, then maybe him and Algier would be the best 1-2 punch. And I'm trying to see if I'm missing anybody. I think those really were the guys. I mean, the guys who have been putting up 2 100-yard games with 2 different running backs. Yeah. Even Craig Reynolds had some success there when he was filling in. It's got to be the Lions, guys.
It has to be the Lions. Another team I was looking at they were on track to be a top 5 running back duo in the league with Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall, the New York Jets, but the Jets just haven't seemed to use Dalvin Cook in the right way. I'm not sure. Yeah,
I agree. There was talk about him getting traded at the deadline. Then there was talk about a release. They recently cut Michael Carter, their former 4th-round pick in North Carolina. I liked him a lot. They didn't really use him well either. He got picked up by Arizona, so we'll see if they throw the ball to him out of the backfield when they're not throwing to Connor.
Yeah, he got picked up real quick. Dropping Michael Carter, that kind of surprised me out of New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, him and Javonte Williams, the Broncos running back, really good guys at North Carolina. That's one of those, or 2 of those players that you scout in college. You're like, this guy's a dog. They go to the NFL. They don't have as much success as you'd like, but you still like to kind of follow their career and see where they end up. So
yeah, if you're talking best running back duos, Javonte Williams and Michael Carter at North Carolina are right up there historically with the best running back duos of all time. I loved watching that team. I was really big on Javonte Williams. He's one of those guys that was a linebacker turned running back. Super fun to watch, just a hard runner. And then you got Michael Carter, who was more sort of the pass catcher on that offense out of the backfield. But, yeah, really fun to watch.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was when Sam Howell was on UNC as well.
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
And Howell having some success as well. People were saying Trubisky 2.0, but I don't know. He looks pretty good so far. That's another quarterback to talk about, which, funny enough, let's delve into that because Henry is asking, is Sam Howell that guy? I'm going to start off with this one. I honestly think he might be. Washington's sitting at 4-6. They had their own 3 in the division, but 2 of those losses came from really close games against the Eagles. And then I believe they also just got pummeled they lost to the Giants. Right, that was the 14-7 game. That one was a painful loss. Against the Broncos, against the Bills, Howell threw 4 picks. Aside from that, he hasn't had too many turnovers on the year. He's currently 2nd in the NFL in passing yards and tied for 3rd in passing touchdowns. So Eric Bieniemy, I think, can get a lot of credit for the success that Washington has had. I've been saying it for years. I think he's a phenomenal offensive coordinator. He was with the Chiefs for forever. Can't seem to find a head coaching job because allegedly he's pretty hard on his players. but it seems like he certainly will be a candidate for a head coaching job this year, just based off what he's done with that offense and Sam Howell, who the Commanders got in the 5th round.
Yeah. I think to answer the question, Sam Howell, in my opinion, he is the guy. I think his only issue is pocket presence. He's got a quick release. He gets the ball out fast when it's there. But when it's not there, he tends to just hang out in the pocket for too long. Takes a lot of sacks. But, you look at his performance against Philly, best defense in the league. He almost threw for 400 yards, had 4 touchdowns. And I think that's about as big of a test as you could have as a young quarterback is playing against that Philly defense. And he showed out that day. But, yeah, just taking way too many sacks. He took 9 sacks against Buffalo.
Jeez.
Yeah, he took 9 sacks there. He took 5 sacks against Philly the week before that.
He is leading the league in sacks by far. He's got 47 on the year and only playing 10 games, so that is really tough.
He's coughed up the football 4 times, just on fumbles. He's threw 4 picks in that Buffalo game as well, along with the 9 sacks. So that was we hope his low point.
Yeah, and I will say, it's his first year as a starter. He only played 1 game last year, and he won that game. He was 1-0 last year. But, this year, O-line is pretty atrocious for Washington. No matter how bad your quarterback is in the pocket, there's no way they should be getting sacked 47 times through 10 games. He might be on pace to set some records there. So that's something that Washington has to shore up. I still think their receiving threats are a little inconsistent. I like Jahan Dotson a lot. I like McLaurin. I love McLaurin. Curtis Samuel's a little inconsistent. And then the running game, they got to just keep establishing that. I think it all comes back to the O-line because they've been wasting Antonio Gibson, in my opinion. And then Brian Robinson has been having some success. Played a really close game with the Seahawks. Only lost from the Seahawks going down the field and kicking that game-winning field goal. But, I think Howell, honestly, you take away that 1 game he had against the Bills, he's only got 5 picks on the year, 17 to 5 picks. 2,800 yards. He's completing 66.5% of his passes. The other thing that I really appreciate Howell for, which is just something I've seen watching his games, he is one of the toughest. He might be the toughest quarterback to tackle I've seen in the last few years, besides somebody like Fields or Lamar.
Yeah.
He's a physical runner. He's had some insane plays.
Yep.
Look at the Bears game. You can look at the Seahawks game, where he is on his feet. You think he got him down, or really teams just give up tackling him. Because he's the quarterback, you got to play gentle with him. He stays on his feet and he stumbles forward for another 10, 15 yards. Look up Sam Howell rushing highlights at the end of this year. I'm sure you're going to get a really good tape.
Yeah, just 5-yard gains that he works for every single yard. I think, to me, Sam Howell is kind of everything that Baker Mayfield wishes he was.
Yeah.
The moxie is there. The confidence is there. The look of the player. I just think Sam Howell is a little bit more of a talented Baker Mayfield, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's actually a really good comparison there. Another QB on the shorter side. He is Howell only 6'1". He's thickly built though, 220, big guy. Like you said, if he can kind of shore up his pocket presence a little bit, he could very well be the future of the Commanders. And already a team captain. If you don't have to worry about getting a quarterback in next year's draft, then go out and get some pieces, build around them, give another year. And, this division right now, you got the Eagles. The Cowboys look vulnerable at times. Who knows how long Dak is going to be there. So with the Giants down low, you could have a shot at a wild card next year if assuming that the Eagles and the Cowboys run it back and Washington builds around Howell. So interesting to watch in the future.
Yeah, I think it's a fun time to be a Washington fan, considering that you have your quarterback of the future. They obviously traded Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Kind of mixed feelings about that from Commanders fans, but you got your draft picks, so you got your quarterback and you got your draft picks. I'd be excited about the future.
Yeah, I agree. Another question from my mother. How long do you think Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's love will last? Man. Are we gonna place a bet line on this? Can we
haven't thought about that. Over, under. What's the average Swift relationship? How long does that last?
Let's see.
Give that
average Taylor Swift relationship length.
I can't think it's more than 6
Dating
months.
history. Let's see.
And how deep are we into it? Are we 2 months? We don't even know. It was never really an official beginning. I think the first time that I saw Taylor Swift on my television was at a Chiefs game. It was her first Chiefs game, but she was in Travis Kelce's box with Travis Kelce's mother, which kind of made me feel like the ball was rolling a little bit too fast. Maybe they had a history, relations, weeks before that leading up, because, I mean, the new girlfriend doesn't typically go straight to the mom, but what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Mama Kelsey also, of all the mothers you could meet, that's maybe not an intimidating mother, but certainly a well-respected mother in the community of mothers, I would say, if that makes any sense at all. Yeah, I mean, we're here on Cosmopolitan.com looking at some relationships. July 2008 to October 2008, Joe Jonas. You got another. What is that? March. That's 1 month relationship with Lucas Till. Fall 2009, Taylor Lautner. It's not even a date on that. And then December 2009 and 2010, John Mayer. Looking at all these, man, Jake Gyllenhaal. I didn't even know some of this.
What a lineup.
Yeah,
what a lineup.
crazy.
I'm seeing Harry Styles, Calvin Harris.
Calvin Harris.
What does she do wrong?
Tom Hiddleston? I didn't know that at all. The guy who plays Loki? What? And then, there was the long relationship with Joe Alwyn, 2017 to 2023. My girlfriend's a big Swiftie, so she was educating me a little bit about that. But, the average length of the relationship seems to be only a couple months. And
the Swifties, they tend to get really excited about each relationship and then end up getting heartbroken. But I'm seeing all over the web that people are kind of thinking Kelsey might be the one. They like the way they look in this relationship.
Yeah, there's been some things that apparently Taylor Swift has alluded to in her songs that almost create this like prophecy. I wish I could give you a specific example. Something about some math that involves like 13 and the number 87 equals 100. I don't know, something like that. It was some prophecy that that would be the one for them. So I don't know, man. I'm happy for him. To answer your question, mother. I'm going to give it like maybe 4 months.
Yeah, I think if there's no ring on her finger by the start of next football season, I'd call it quits.
Yeah, I agree. Put your money down now.
So over-under, I guess we'll go 10 months.
Yeah.
10 months, and that's solid
that.
For a Swift relationship.
Yeah, not bad at all. Hey, whatever happens, happy for both of them. We'll have to see what's going on there.
And I think, honestly, everybody, not to be kind of morbid, but root for a breakup, because the content from that would be some of the most entertaining stuff you've ever watched.
That's very true. I mean, Kelsey fired up after a breakup, probably play some good football, and Taylor Swift probably pump out some pretty good albums off some breakup as she's done in the past. So, yeah, it could be interesting to watch. I got one more question for you, Gavin. Who is your favorite Lion of all time?
Oh, wow. Favorite Detroit Lion of all time? Well, I was watching his interview on Pat McAfee the other day. I'm a big Stafford fan. Mm-hmm. How can you not be? Just one of the most humble guys. He really embodied Detroit and everything that they're about. And he gave everything that he had to this team for, 12 years? Maybe 10, 12 years. That was my favorite player. I had his jersey growing up. Nobody can spin a football like Stafford can. Super underrated quarterback while he was playing in Detroit. Obviously went to L.A., got his ring. I was rooting for him. So happy for him. Not going to say I cried when he won a Super Bowl, but I was close. I love that guy, and then I would have to say Calvin's my second. Those are kind of basic answers, but I mean, how could those not be the guys? Calvin Johnson, top 3 wide receiver to ever play the game. Matthew Stafford is a guy who was responsible for 3 of the top 5 receiving seasons of all time. I think both are Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And they'll be cemented as Detroit legends.
Yeah, I was about to ask you if you thought Stafford was a Hall of Famer. I'm a firm believer in yes. I mean, one of those ones that the stats or the accolades won't prove it, but the stats and the people who are watching him, it will. I mean, he's still playing right now, so the story, the book isn't closed yet. Seems like he's certainly past his prime at this point, but was really happy when he got that ring in L.A. Had a monster year, too. 4,800 yards, 41 touchdowns, 17 picks. I mean, he's a gunslinger. He's going to turn over the ball, but at the same time, he's still completing 68% or 67%. Yeah, big numbers guy from Stafford. He's throwing a lot of touchdowns every year. And like you said, yeah, responsible for 3 of the biggest seasons by wide receivers. He feeds his guys. One of the guys I was thinking about for the Lions shout-out was Golden Tate.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite receivers to watch back in the day is arguably the best run-after-the-catch wide receiver I watched growing up. Super hard to bring down. He was a nimble little guy.
Yeah, he was so much fun to watch in Detroit. I kind of think about the play that embodies Golden Tate's time in Detroit the most was a game-winning touchdown, I think, in overtime against Minnesota, and he catches the ball on a little comeback route, breaks the tackle, running for the end zone. There's a defender who kind of has the angle on him. Maybe Golden Tate didn't notice that, or maybe he saw him and just decided to flex on him, and he hit like a front flip into the end zone, got clocked as he was doing it, held onto the football, landed in the end zone, game-winning touchdown. You're thinking, like, what the hell is he doing? But, you'll take a game-winning touchdown, I guess, any day of the week, right?
Yeah, that is an iconic play. I mean, he pretty much, I don't even know if it was a front flip. It was kind of like a 360, or maybe it was when he got hit, he kind of spiraled out.
Yeah, it was like a he jumped in the air and did a cartwheel.
It was like a deer getting hit by a car, getting
Yeah.
flying around. But it was, yeah, I mean, oh, man, love Golden Tate there. He put up some huge numbers in Detroit there. Obviously, yeah, Calvin Johnson, Cooper Kupp, now Puka Nacua. That's another thing for the Rams. I mean, Puka Nacua, putting up some numbers this year. They got Stafford back now, so if you have Puka Nacua on your fantasy team, you had him on the bench the last couple weeks, now's the time to put him back in. But, yeah, I love John Matthew Stafford. He's the GOAT.
Something that surprises me about Stafford, 1 Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And of all the years that he made a Pro Bowl, right, he's thrown for 40 touchdowns in 2 separate seasons. And the season that he made the Pro Bowl in was when he threw 22 touchdowns, completed 60% of his passes, threw 12 picks, only had a quarterback rating, a rating of 85.7.
It just doesn't make sense to me that the year that he threw for 5,000 yards and over 40 touchdowns, he was not a Pro Bowler.
Right.
I just don't get that. It just kind of goes back to Detroit being overlooked.
Getting snubbed. Yep. I remember that in 2019, he had that year where he had a really hot start to the season. I mean, through 8 games, he had 19 touchdowns, 5 picks, 2,500 yards. He finishes that season. That's 1,040 and 10 right there. Or sorry, 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 10 picks. So yeah, I mean, I wish he stayed healthy that year. But at the end of the day, went to the Rams, got his ring, still a Lions legend. I'm glad that you appreciate him because some of my other Lions Lions fans, friends, such as Mr. Jack Barlow, who we know.
Oh, yeah.
Was rooting against Stafford in that Super Bowl. He's rooting for the Bengals.
How?
I don't know, man.
I don't understand that. I mean, I guess maybe I just like the guy, Stafford, more than I like the player, Stafford, but I'm just rooting for him because he's a good guy. And, I mean, at this point, he's been playing in L.A. for 3 years. He's 35 years old, but he still gives back to Detroit. He still has foundations over there. Just a really good guy, and he actually loved the city. So say what you want about Detroit, but Stafford was a fan. Yeah, definitely one of my all-time favorite Detroit Lions.
Amen to that. Well, Gavin, before we wrap up here, is there any other Lions talk that you got here? Any NFL talk that you want to bring to the table?
I want to see Jamison Williams score a touchdown against the Chicago Bears this weekend. Just still been waiting on that breakout game statistically from Jamison Williams. He's had some big plays where he's blocking downfield on a David Montgomery touchdown run. Did that in his first week back against the Panthers. Did that last week against the Chargers on a 70-yard Montgomery touchdown. Jamison Williams was sprinting down the field, and he made the difference because Montgomery stayed in bounds by probably 1 centimeter. There was damn near no space. There was no green between Montgomery's cleat and the sideline, and Jamison Williams was sprinting down to make that block, so that was huge. But in that game, he only had 2 catches for 18 yards. The week before that against the Raiders, 2 catches for 16 yards. I just want to see this guy get involved a little bit more. I know he had a touchdown that was called back against the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I love that play, the little bubble screen, get all the lead blockers ahead of him. They've been trying to get him in those screen plays. He runs a lot of deep crossing routes and screens, so I hope we can get him on one of those. Something about that touchdown that got called back was because of a low block on Taylor Decker. I feel like the low block happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at that play, there were 3 other Lions offensive linemen who made a low block, and Decker was the one that got called. I think it's kind of schematic or strategic maybe from an offensive lineman standpoint. I think once the ball is snapped, you're supposed to just kind of fake like you're falling down and kind of get that defensive lineman kind of out the way.
There's a way to sell it for if you're low blocking or even sometimes a block in the back or kind of in the side. There is a way to sell it that they'll teach you in practice. So because those happen all the time, and in some ways they get called. You rarely see that get called in an NFL game. 15-yard penalty, low block, or what have you. But one of those unlucky moments there. But yeah, talking about Jameson Williams, loved him at Alabama. Phenomenal route runner. Pretty solid hands. And, I mean, he is a speed demon. Probably arguably the fastest player in the NFL besides Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Probably on par with Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs would argue, but I think Jameson Williams is the fastest Detroit Lion at the moment. And, yeah, he just opens up the field a tremendous amount. Like I mentioned, you find him running a lot of go routes, a lot of deep crossing routes, and that just opens the field wide open for Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown, obviously. I think he's been a good decoy so far, but I want to see him have a game, maybe 6 catches, 150 yards and a touchdown. I want to see that game out of J-Mo.
Yeah, he's going to have one of those inevitable games, maybe even in a playoff game. He's got the 3 catches, 140 yards, and 2 tutties or something like that. I see it coming. I just know. But it is good that he's getting involved either in blocking game or being a decoy. Starting to sound like Arthur Smith there with Bijan Robinson. Yeah, away from the ball, he can do a lot of things, But
away from the
give
ball.
him the ball,
Yeah,
Gotta get him involved.
Just one thing that kind of scares me about J-Mo is that game against Baltimore. 6 targets, 0 receptions. I haven't watched the All-22 on that. Can't really give you too many details, but that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yep. At least they're targeting him, but for sure got to get him involved. Throw him some more screens. The bubble screen, that was the one that got called back, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, throw him some more screens, some more underneath. I mean, you got Amon-Ra, who's mainly the underneath guy. Josh Reynolds, I think, is pretty underrated. He's a good number 2. And then you got Khalif Raymond and Jameson to stretch the field most of the time. Laporta's your security valve. But, yeah, switch it up a little bit. Have some of the other guys go deep. Amon-Ra is very capable of running the deep route or the mid post or anything like that.
Yeah, super reliable guy.
Yeah, great hands there. So, yeah, try it. Maybe have J-Mo in the underneath route. Have him run some slugs and whatnot.
Yeah, and if the receptions aren't there yet, you just kind of got to be happy that he's picking up blocks, doing the dirty work. Kind of the motto for the Lions all season has been no block, no rock. You're not getting the football if you're not blocking on running plays, and J-Mo has done that. So, I think he's earned maybe, 60-yard touchdown against the Bears. We'll see.
We'll see, man. Are you throwing money on that, though?
I'll put my money where my mouth is. I would say put the house on Detroit to cover.
Okay, house on Detroit to cover. You know what? If I was a gambling man, I don't know what I would do, but that seems like pretty good odds to me.
If I were actually a gambling man, I would say I think the spread's at 10 points right now. That's kind of a lot for an NFL game, especially a divisional matchup.
Yeah.
So I would honestly actually pick the Bears to cover, but I'm not a betting man, so.
Well, I guess we'll have to see. We got a lot of really good games coming up this weekend. We got the Lions game, Lions-Bears game, of course. We talked about the Eagles-Chiefs. A ton of other good matchups here. So, as we wrap up today, I just want to say, Gavin, thank you for coming on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Pleasure reminiscing about some old gems from the iconic 2010s.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine. I had to go way back into the brain and into the files, deep in the back of my head for Brandon Pettigrew. But all it really did was remind me of that pass interference call that was picked up in the wild card game in 2014, and that tends to kind of be the trend with the Detroit Lions is getting gypped by the refs. But
maybe not this year. We'll see. It very well could be. And you know what? Maybe down the road when we see some more Lions action, we'll bring you back in the studio, talk about what's going well.
Talk a little bit more about America's team. I would love that.
Of course. And to those of you listening, thanks so much for tuning in for another episode of the Onside Kick Show. We will most likely not have an episode next week for Thanksgiving. So enjoy the holiday, watch some football, eat some turkey, and take care. And I'll see you in a couple weeks. So thank you guys again for listening. I will see you next time.